This is Dr. Radio. Coming up next, from the heart of the NYU Langone Medical Center, in-depth coverage of today's health headlines. This is Dr. Radio Reports.
Welcome back to Dr. Radio Reports. I'm Dr. Siegel, Medical Director of Dr. Radio, Professor of Medicine, NYU Langone Health. Been away for a couple of weeks. I actually was in Greece, and one of the things that I did in Greece was spend time on the islands. And one of the things I heard on the islands was maybe you shouldn't drink the water here. And I'm going to get into well water and groundwater with our first guest in a minute. And so I'm going to ask her about that, although she's going to say, I don't know anything about Santorini or Mykonos. By the way, if you're going to go to the islands, this is the time to go because it's not as touristy. And it was really an amazing experience. I've spent a lot of time in Athens, but I've never gone to these islands before, and they're pretty interesting. The other thing I did, I was in Texas riding mountain bikes again with former President George W. Bush and the vets, the wounded vets. And we were riding in the mud, and it was really terrible conditions, but not among the spirits of anybody involved. And Bush made the point, that a lot of vets, and we've done a lot about veterans' health here on Dr. Radio, especially with Charlie Marmer, our chairman here, who's one of the world's experts in post-traumatic stress. And they're focusing on the invisible wounds of war, post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. But he said the point that, some vets will say that they remain in darkness. And someone on the bike ride might say, well, I'm not in darkness anymore. Talk to me. And sometimes these connections really help with family, with community, with this military community, with the community that comes from even this bike ride of people. And I think that's a lot. There's a lot of organizations out there helping veterans. We've talked about, to some of them, we've talked about heads of the VA here. We've talked all across, but, the more the better, I think. And it was really an inspiring trip. And I think I'm back on New York time finally. My first guest of the show today is Allison Roderick. She's an environmental health officer in Webster County, Iowa. She focuses on the issues of well water. Welcome, Allison.
Hi, thank you.
I know that was a roundabout way of getting to you. So can I even ask you why somebody would tell me that the water isn't safe to drink in one place versus another?
It really kind of just depends on, what's surrounding the groundwater. Here in Iowa, it's an ag state, and we have corn on one side of the street and soybeans on the other, and then a pig farm here and there. So it's really just what's surrounding the well and what could get into the groundwater. So things along those lines,
That's a much greater answer than you think it is. It's very descriptive. Let's start with the pigs. What do the pigs do? How does a nearby pig pollute well water?
Well, when they go to the bathroom, defecate, and it gets on the ground, and it can seep into the ground, and the livestock, and then things along with farm chemicals like that seep into the groundwater, or into the ground that gets into the groundwater.
Well, how do you know if you're living there, even if you're driving through and you stop into, to a gas station and you want to wash your hands? How do you know if the water is safe in an area? I guess we would call these agricultural areas, corn on one side, soy on the other. We'll get to that in a minute, but you're doing great so far, by the way. I'm learning.
Thank you.
I use this show to learn from. That's my secret. I learned throughout the pandemic. I kept bringing on experts smarter than me, and they taught me. And so then I became an expert, kind of. So, I'm not going to be an expert in well water by the time we're done today, but you've started me off really well.